Auburn lands two more commits. How do we fix the transfer portal? And many more questions. It's time for another barn takeover.
In a world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie Five.
Yes, sir. We're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie Five, and we're ready to get after it. It's time for another barn takeover, my favorite part of the week where all the content is driven by members of thebarnauburn.com. You can jump in too. All you got to do is sign up. I'll post a mailbag every Wednesday and take as many questions that I possibly can and make the whole show around it. So I don't want to spin it anymore. I want to get right into it. But before we do that, we got to give a shout out to mybookie.ag. Use coupon code next round for a 50% deposit bonus. Use coupon code TNR Casino for a 300% deposit bonus in the casino. So you could get up to 3 times your deposit in the casino, take those winnings, hit it up in the sports book any way you can imagine, all the lines you can imagine, betting any way you can imagine. Easy deposits, easy withdrawals. Check them out. It's mybookie.ag. Without further ado, let's jump into the very first question because we got a bunch. C. Coop, how many more defensive linemen do we need from the portal? And is it worth waiting to see who hits the portal from playoff teams? Auburn lands a huge commitment, literally and figuratively. Signee, commitment, whatever you want to call it. Had a funny name offered to me. I'm not going to say it out loud on what we could call these, but it made me laugh. Yeah, you had a big commitment. Defensive tackle, Dallas Walker from Western Kentucky. He committed, signed, and then played in his bowl game for Western Kentucky. That to me speaks volumes about what kind of person he is in general. But a really good player too. Had 4 tackles last night. But how many more? I think Auburn obviously wants to take an edge. I'm counting that as a defensive lineman. And there's a couple of guys you're looking at. You got Clev Lubin from Coastal Carolina that you still feel really good about. And then you've had some new names kind of come in late from other schools. And I think as bowl games end, you're going to see more, and playoff games end, you're going to see more guys jump in. So, again, I think you need 2 more. I think you need another interior lineman, and I think you need another edge. Not another edge. I think you need an edge and 1 additional interior lineman, and it may be worth it. It may be worth it to wait a little bit. You're in a good spot. You got Amaris Williams to come back. You didn't really lose anything else on the defensive line. You did lose TJ Lindsey, but you feel like maybe you can replace that, fairly easy. There's some big dogs out there, walking that, big dogs walk late. I mean, what if Clemson gets knocked out first round? There's been talks of, Dabo and Clemson not necessarily being all in on the NIL game. There's a lot of Alabama kids on that defensive line. Who knows if one of those guys may say, they're throwing some money around out here. I'm not getting it here. I may go see what's out there. So it may be worth it. There's some really good players out there that I think could, you never know, could possibly pop. So I think you got your 1 guy in, get you an edge in, and then see what happens in the portal. I think you take 2 more though, edge and another interior guy. Pena 87. Will the offense continue using a 3-headed play caller operation in 2025? If you're not any familiar with what he's talking about, there's been a couple of times where Hugh has mentioned over the course of the season that play calling is a collaborative effort. You have Ken Austin, who's typically more of the third and long pass play type specialist, and then he and Derek Nix collaborate, I guess, on the other play calls. The biggest thing here, I feel like, this is blown so out of proportion, and it's used, to me, it's used to sort of, I guess, point towards any sort of issues on the offensive side. But the thing is, there's only one person that's calling the play into the quarterback, and that's Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze is calling the plays in the quarterback. So if Ken Austin were calling a play into the quarterback, and then Derek Nix were calling in a play into the quarterback, and then the quarterback's hearing all these different voices in the headset, I would say, yeah, you got a problem. But that's not the case. Confirmed by multiple quarterbacks, confirmed by multiple people. Okay, so this is really no different than any college program at all. Period. There's always conversations being had in the headset where people are like, "Hey, I see them giving us this look. I think we can get them with this." And then the play caller may say, "Yep, I like that. Let's go with that. Hey, here's the play. Boom, send it in." There's always conversations like that. This is not something that's very abnormal. Hugh's giving them probably a little bit more credit than they actually have in the play calling process. And I think contractually, he probably has to say some of the things, especially towards Derek Nix, because I think Derek Nix had to leave to be able to call plays. So do I think Derek Nix is calling in a play to the quarterback? No. Is he suggesting a play based off the scenario, based off the down and distance? Sure. I think that happens across the country. This is not a big deal. This is not anything that's sort of out of the ordinary from anywhere else in the country. In the NFL, you have pass game coordinators and run game coordinators. That used to be a big thing in college too. That's guys that put together the run game plan and put together the passing game plan for a game, like not in unison. Like it's not a big deal. It's just another thing I feel like that has been pointed to add to, I guess, any negativity that can be pointed towards the offense that, may deserve some at some point in time. I mean, the offense definitely deserves some criticism, but this is not it. There's a lot more that you could point to. This really isn't one of them. So I don't think anything changes as far as the way this thing's set up and the verbiage that Hugh's going to use moving forward. Let's go to the next one. Andrew with an extra W. Hopefully we got some extra dubs next year. Andrew 88. Thoughts on how the running back room is shaping up? Who's the clear number one, if there is any? Or will it be a multiple rotation and not a featured back? So first of all, we got to keep everybody. Okay. I think we're on a good pathway for that. I think there's a good chance that we keep Jeremiah Cobb and Damari Alston. I don't think there's a clear number one out of those guys. I don't think you have to have a clear number one out of those guys. I was looking through the SEC and it's very rare. It's very rare for there honestly to be a real feature back. Honestly, Tennessee may have been the only other school that had a real, I guess, feature guy. Everything else was pretty split up. It may not have been exactly 50-50, but it was maybe more 60-40 or 70-30. There's just not that. I don't think either one of these guys are going to be that Jarquez Hunter who are going to eat up 80 to 90% of the carries. I do think it'll be sort of a tandem. I do think it'll be a two-headed attack, and both of them do a little bit different things. I think Damari Alston is probably more of the well-rounded running back, can kind of do a little bit of everything. But I think Jeremiah Cobb's more explosive. So I think you got a little bit, you got two different elements there. And I think at least if they're both here, I think it's definitely going to be more of you'll see more of an even split. I wouldn't even be surprised if you saw some formations with both of them on the field at the same time. So I am concerned who's going to be the guy that you lean on to get those tough yards. I don't know. I don't know which one of those guys is it. I don't know who's going to be that Jarquez in those tough situations. But overall, I do think you have the traits. I do think you have the skill sets in that room to be good, but it's all with different people. It's like you gotta figure out how to mash it all together and make it work, because you don't have that one guy that can do everything. I guess it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but a lot of talent and a lot of tools there to be utilized. It's a good running back room. It lacks the top end star power, the top end firepower guy, but overall, I think it's a pretty good running back room. Let's keep it rolling, keep it pushing. Virginia is for Barners. I want to know what that name means. So message me when you see this. Message me and tell me. I'd love to know I told everybody the origin of my name. So I'd love to know. I'd love to know that. I assume you're just from Virginia and you're a Barner. So it could be as simple as that. But do you think that 2025 is the real proof of concept year with all the talent we've added? So it depends on what you mean by proof of concept, because I felt like at times you started to see the offense take shape last year and show that explosive ability. So if it's just strictly production, you might be close to there. If it's wins, you're absolutely right. 2025 has to be the year that you show wins. You got to get more wins than you have losses. 2025's got to be it. 2025's got to be the show. Yes, you've shown the ability to be explosive. You've shown the ability to make big plays in the defense. But can you put all that together and complete a game and win a game? To me, that's the key for 2025. Sure, stats are great. Yards per carry, awesome. Okay. Got to be able to handle, got to be able to get wins. And if you can do both of those at the same time, great. But at this point in time, you got to be able to show that your system, what you've been building, is going to yield wins and get Auburn closer to competing for championships. And that's got to be this year. I think the stats helped. The stats helped a little bit retain the roster and showed you could point to something and say, look, we're close. We're tops of the country in explosive plays. We're a top 35 overall defense. We're getting close. Look, I mean, the stats are right there, but those stats have to yield wins in 2025. So if that's what you mean, absolutely has to yield results in 2025, or you're going to have a lot of questions to answer. You're going to have a lot. It's going to be this off season has been great because of the additions. Next off season could be a lot different if you have similar results and you're not showing that you're able to close out games and get more wins, get more wins on the board. I mean, I think this year is vital. Another thing, man, you've been given sort of you've had sort of the war chest opened, so to speak. You were able to go get the quarterback that you wanted. You were able to go get the number one offensive tackle in the portal. You're about to probably get the number one overall player in the portal. You're able to retain your roster. You know, I'm assuming I've talked about the suck tax. I'm assuming the suck tax has made this roster way more expensive than it could have been or should have been. So you're going to have a ton of questions to answer if we don't start seeing more wins on the scoreboard. And I think this year is definitely, I'm with you. 2025 is vital. So we'll see what happens there. Before we keep going, obviously, let's give a shout out to our boy Ford Stokes with Active Wealth. Go to retirementresults.com/plan and just, take control of your retirement. Take responsibility of what you have going on. Make sure you're not throwing away money in senseless fees. Make sure you're protected from the IRS. Make sure that whatever you're doing is stretching your dollar as far as it could possibly go. Again, go to that website, get your custom portfolio analysis. It's a $1,500 value. You'll make a great friend at the same time. Tell him War Eagle. Tell him we sent you. That's Ford Stokes with Active Wealth. Let's keep it pushing. Let's keep it going. This is a good one. I think about this one often. D. Moultrie, one of our early members, very active, a lot of fun, great conversations with D. Moultrie. What, in your opinion, or how would you fix the portal in NIL to where it's not the wild, wild west? Well, first of all, I think the most important thing that has to be done and could probably fix a lot of things is just having multi-year enforceable contracts. I think that will be number one. because what's killer, what is really killer is spending so much time on a high school freshman and he comes for 1 year and then leaves. I think that's killer. If you can have guys for 2 years, you can develop them and show them a pathway to where they could play in year 3, and then you can renegotiate their deal. You can do a lot of different things. But to me, 2-year enforceable contracts is almost that's got to be that's got to be first. And you could do 3-year, you could do 4-year. It's a huge gamble on both sides, but you could do that if you wanted to. Just enforceable contracts, multi-year enforceable contracts in general, I think is going to be something that's huge. And hey, look, a guaranteed contract for an 18-year-old that's, let's just say it's a guaranteed $1 million over 2 years. I mean, guaranteed for 2 years, like no matter what, I'm in. Like I think that's a huge benefit for the player knowing I got that locked in. And then on the flip side, the coach at least knows I got that number. I got that guy for 2 years that I can figure out, I can develop, see where he's going to go. And then after 2 years, we can talk. And then, hey, if it works, it works. If not, we can move on. But that was part of the investment of developing this player. And a lot of times when it's going to be year 3 and they see that they've achieved the level of, I'm a starter now, that re-sign deal, you could just sign it for 1 year or you could sign it for 2 more. It doesn't matter. It just gives you a little bit more leverage when you go to that renegotiating table. I think 2-year contracts is the first thing. And I know people are not going to like this, and this is not totally my idea, but I love the winter portal. I think the winter portal is fun. It's awesome, but it's impossible. It's so unfair, especially if you're a playoff team or heck, just a bowl team. I mean, you got to try. You're seeing teams have to withdraw from bowl games because all their players go into the portal. Marshall, if you have coaching changes, it's just there. When you have coaching changes and all this stuff, there's just so much that goes on. You can't get rid of a coach. You can't hire a coach because in the middle of it, you got to be trying to sign players, and players are leaving, players are coming. I just think the winter portal has to go away, and it has to be set for spring. Open up April 1st, just like free agency. I don't know if free agency starts April 1st. I know it starts in the spring for NFL. April 1st through June, 2 months. And let that be the portal. Sure, you're not going to get those guys in for spring, but that's just part of it. That's just part of it. I think that's, to me, it's just a complete nightmare to have to do the portal while you're trying to coach for a bowl or you have a coaching vacancy. I mean, think about the cost of firing a coach now. You fire a coach and immediately all those guys get to go to the portal, and they get to go to the portal for a month, over a month. So you have to hire a coach. Then that coach has to hire a staff, get players in the portal, try to keep his players. It's a nightmare. Now, if the portal period was moved to spring, then you'd have the opportunity to sort of then you have the opportunity to take a breath when you hire a new coach, when you bring in the staff, get to know the players, go through a spring with the players. I just think spring portal is the way to go. Yeah, you're going to have some issues. You're going to have some guys that are going to obviously have to come in late, and they're going to have to get up to speed fast, but that's just part of it. A lot of times when you're going to find these guys, they've played multiple years of college football, especially if you're going to try to find those first-year starters. Those immediate impact guys, they've played a lot of football, so the adjustment shouldn't be that big of a deal. And then high school signing day is fine if you do those two things, or if you move the portal period to spring. I think that fixes the high school thing. You can do whatever you want to do at high school, but spring portal period to me is the only way this thing makes sense moving forward. It's just my opinion. There's no way to make it work in the winter and it not be chaos. You can't do it. Move it to February 1st. You can't move it to mid-January when the playoffs are over, because the spring semester's already been enrolled at schools. So like you can't do that. So it's I think you move it to spring and just let that be the only portal period. It would stink for podcasts like this because it's so much fun to talk about stuff going every single day, but I think it's best for the long term of the game. This is a good one. Tenjiro Kamado. I can say the name right because I had a lesson. Start one, bench one, cut one. The Home Alone franchise, Elf, or The Christmas Story. And you know what? I'd go in that order. You got to have Home Alone number one. I mean, it's just it's like generational. It's great for kids. It's great for adults. It's fun. It's funny. The Marv getting electrocuted in Home Alone 2, or the all the different tricks in the first one. It's just a great series. That's got to be number one. Kids love Elf, so I'll bench Elf. And then I'm gonna be honest, and y'all are gonna hate on me, especially in the comments. I honestly don't know that I've sat down. I've seen the movie in pieces. Okay. I know all the scenes, I know all the lines, but I don't think I've ever sat down and watched a Christmas Story from beginning to end. I truly don't believe I have. I don't even know that I really know the plot line. I know about I know you get your mouth washed out with soap, you shoot your eye out with a Red Ryder BB gun, you got the leg lamp, you got all the stuff. I know all that. Okay. But for whatever reason, I don't think I know the whole plot. I don't think I know the whole plot line because I don't think I've watched it all. So I'll cut A Christmas Story. Don't kill me. Tutter, if we get Eric Singleton Jr., who it looks like Auburn's trending in that direction, will he eat more into Perry's playing time or Malcolm's? So that's a really good question. And I'm gonna say probably Perry a little bit because Eric Singleton Jr. can play anywhere, and I don't think you're going to take Malcolm off the field. I think you're going to put Malcolm out there as many snaps as you possibly can. So, with that being said, I think whether it's inside or outside, wherever you line Eric Singleton up, you're going to put Malcolm opposite that. So, if you put him inside, you may line up Malcolm outside. I think Malcolm is set for a huge role this year, and I think he may have a chance to explode. And I don't think you want to take him off the field. So I would say it would cut into Perry's workload a little bit moving forward in this season. So that's my take. And I think, again, number one player in the portal. You got his roommate signed. Might watch out for that one today. Let's see if we can reel that one in today or tomorrow. That would make some noise for sure. For sure. Brian Beatty, do we currently have room for more transfers, or will we need to lose some players if we want to add some more? I did some numbers, and depending on what you do with kickers, we're right around 78 or 79 scholarships. So you do that math, we got about 5 or 6 more spots left, and those numbers could go up or down depending on. And I'm also the only thing you do have 4 high school guys coming in spring. Okay. So you got to factor those in. So with that being said, you got, a handful of more spots, 3 or 4 more spots. And then once, if players leave, obviously those will go up. So you got around 78 spots. You have 4 guys coming in. So that leaves you with 82. And then you got 3 or 4 more spots that you can add there. And then that number probably increases depending on who, if anybody else, were to leave. So, and then I still haven't quite figured out what this 105 roster spot, 105 roster spots means. I guess you can do the preferred walk-on scholarship deal if you need to, where it's like you get NIL that pays for your scholarship. I guess you can obviously do that too. Crossfire X. If you were to guess right now, does Auburn lean more towards a preferred walk-on G5 quarterback for that 4th spot, or do you think they may actually go after a name in the portal? I honestly have no idea. I really don't. Anything I say right now will be a guess because I don't even think Auburn really knows the direction they're going to go in because Walker was such a surprise. They were not prepared for that at all. So if I said anything, it would be a complete guess. If I had to lean one way, I'd say they probably get through. Well, I say that, but man, you only have 2 scholarship quarterbacks for spring. You really need somebody. They're I have no idea. I really don't. I don't know. If it were me, I might just look at the cost benefit of just rolling with 2 in spring and getting Deuce all the reps I possibly can and see what's available in the spring portal and add somebody there. Maybe you get a guy like you get an older guy that doesn't mind sitting, but then you got 2 of those. I don't know. It's kind of a weird spot. That was a really shock for Walker to leave, and I'm not really sure what direction they're going to go. There is no info out there. There's not really a ton of intel on which way they'll go. So it's anything you say would be a guess. A couple more, and then we're done. Carolina Barner. Any insight into the agent situation pertaining to the portal and kids transferring? Is it legit representation? Are these guys meeting with the schools before kids are in the portal? So, yeah, there are legitimate agencies. There are some legitimate agencies out there that work with these kids, and then there's for the legitimate ones, there's the ones that are a little bit sketchy, and then there's family members that are acting on behalf of players as well. So there are, if the kids can, afford their services or they're good enough, there's some really good agents out there. So yeah, there's some legit stuff out there, but I would say it's very few. I would say most of the stuff you're getting is the sketchy stuff. Are these people meeting with schools before kids are in the portal? Absolutely. They're calling all season. They're doing everything. They're letting everybody know they're for sale. So understand, it doesn't tampering. This gets around the tampering because it's no direct contact with the player. But understand, it's 1,000% going on. That could possibly be a regulation that needs to be that could help things, is making to where if you have representation, they are an extension of you. So it would be considered tampering if you talk to them. So that would mean it'd be a violation for coaches to talk to them, and then obviously it'd be a violation. It'd be a violation for the player as well, for their agents to be talking to other coaches and staffs during the season. I don't even think you can do that in the NFL. I don't even think that's really. I think that's pretty frowned upon to be. I think it's got a name to it, I think, as well. So I don't think you can. It may be tampering. There's something where you can't do that. You can't shop your guy during the season. Like that's crazy. That's something that I'd throw back into the fix in the transfer portal thing. But believe it, it's going on every single day. Doesn't matter. Every 365, it's going on. Last one, and I think this is a good one to end on. Mashed Potato Johnson. With the O-line addition and a QB who is a more capable runner, do you feel like new personnel will elevate the red zone offense this year? That's a tough one. Okay, so it should, and let me tell you why. Auburn struggled to me in the red zone because that team, I know people will disagree with me here. When Auburn had to run the ball and other teams knew we had to run the ball, Auburn struggled, period. It was just, think of the times where there was a 3rd and short, or I mean, I'm sure we could probably find this statistic, or there was an obvious rundown and Auburn was able to really get push and make that happen, especially in the red zone. I just don't know that was a big issue last year. Now, you got to bet you should have, in theory, a little bit better of an offensive line. You don't have a Jarquez Hunter, but you do have a little bit more of a willing and a better running athlete at quarterback that could help in that scenario. Another issue, though, was communication and just overall understanding when to check a play, when you should use common sense, communication between the quarterback and the coach and the play caller. That's got to get cleaned up. big time. There has to be an understanding. There has to be, they got to be on the same page. And I felt like last year, Hugh and Peyton were not really on the same page, more so than they were not on the same page more than they were on the same page, which led to communication issues, led to just completely mistakes, calling checks late in a play clock, and then you get a false start. Like, all those things have to be fixed. And it's not just fixed just by players. The players having some more talented offensive linemen does make it to where calling plays is a little bit easier, because you can kind of go through your full array instead of trying to think about what they can execute. You got a little bit more of an open playbook, and you can kind of make some stuff happen. So in theory, yes, you're right. You're right. It should help red zone play calling. Or not red zone play calling, red zone success, which in turn will help red zone play calling. So overall, just having a better offensive line, if these guys pan out like you think they will help so many things. Well, for sure. So, guys, that's going to be it for today. Great questions, great conversation, and we will do it again next week. We're going to keep this thing going. I got something up my sleeve that I think can make this even more fun. We're working on ironing out the details. So hang in there. Subscribe to thebarnauburn.com, and you can be filled in on all those details when we drop it. I really appreciate it, guys. If you like this video, like it. If you like this channel, subscribe to it. Follow me on Twitter, _Charlie_5. We're going to be back every single day. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.